Hello and welcome to Time Series Forecasting. In this video, I'm going to talk about the basic steps in a forecasting task. So this video is going to give you a step-by-step process of thinking about a forecasting task. And the first step is going to be defining a problem. And this is one of the most difficult part of any forecasting task. Defining a problem, it requires understanding of the way the forecasting will be used. So as a forecaster, you need to define a problem very clearly. You need to know who will be using your forecasts so that you can have a clear understanding of this forecasting problem. And then you have to talk to everyone who will be involved in this whole process. You need to talk to people who will be collecting the data, who will be maintaining the databases, and anybody who will be using those forecasts in the future. After you define a forecasting problem, the next process will be to gather information or statistical data about your forecasting. As I said in one of my previous videos, there are a bunch of models that you can use. You either need data about any particular variable that you want to forecast, otherwise you need data of other explanatory variables. But in any case, you need to gather information about the data. You may also need to talk to experts in the field so that you can talk about any problems that you may observe in the data set. After you have the data, step 3 will be to do preliminary exploratory analysis. So whenever you have some data, you should always start by plotting your data. This way you'll be able to observe any patterns in the data set. You may observe business cycle, trend, seasonality, or any patterns in the data set that you can use in building a forecasting model. You may also observe some outliers in the model. I'll talk more about how to deal with outliers in the future, but to give you an idea, you should never drop those outliers from your data. Rather, you need to talk to an expert so that you can know more about those outliers. Here is a quick example. So this is data of economy class passengers in Australia. After you plot this data set, you observe this huge fall in the data set in the year 1989. We can always talk to an expert in the field of air travel to know more about this outlier or this unavailability of data. In fact, there was a huge strike during this time, hence we don't have any data in this time period. Okay, so again, you should always start by graphing your data set. And the next step is probably more complicated, and we are going to spend a considerable amount of time talking about how to choose and fit a forecasting model. And most of the times, instead of relying on just one model, we run a bunch of models and then we compare the results of those models, and among them we choose whatever model is giving us the best result. So we're going to start talking about some benchmark methods, and then we'll talk about regression model, we'll talk about exponential smoothing model, we'll talk about ARIMA model, dynamic regression model, and other models that you can choose from and then fit a forecasting model. Actually, nowadays, instead of relying on just one model, people are forecasting using multiple models and then ensembling those models together to get the best forecasts. We'll talk more about these issues when we'll talk about how to choose and fit a model. The final step in a forecasting task will be evaluating a forecasting model. So once we have selected a model, the next step will be to estimate its parameters. And after we have that, we can use that information to forecast values of our variable of interest and then evaluate the accuracy of our forecasts. Now this step will be very crucial because this will enable you to compare different models that you will fit in step number 4. So we'll talk about how to test the accuracy of the model, and obviously we want our forecast to be as close to the actual realization of that event therefore we'll want to pick a model which will give us minimum error or which will be closer to the actual values. So these are the 5 steps, and these steps are very important. You are going to use the same 5 steps for your final project as well. The first step will be to define a problem. The second will be to gather information, collect data. The third will be do preliminary exploratory analysis to know any outliers or see any patterns in the dataset. Step 4 will be to choose and fit different models. And step 5 will be to evaluate the accuracy of the model and choose the best model among those fitted models. So that's how you accomplish a forecasting task. And obviously we're going to use these same steps throughout this course. Alright, I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.